What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another Movie Monday. And before we get into this movie review, if you have any movies you'd like to comment them down below and I'll try to review them the best way I can. Now, let's get into this. We'll be reviewing, as you can read from the title, Wolverine and Deadpool, which is a superhero film. This is basically the third installment of the Deadpool franchise or films that are being made. This is the first Deadpool and X-Men film in general that has actually been inside the MCU or the Marvel Universe. But this will be a spoiler-free review, so let's get into this. Since this is the third Deadpool movie, my personal favorite between 1 and 2 I would have to say is 1 being an 8 out of 10 and then 2 being a 7 out of 10. Both are great films, but I personally enjoy 1 more than 2. Getting back into the movie review, this is an MCU film from Deadpool, like the first Deadpool movie in the MCU. And I understand that the MCU kind of right now has been kind of like everywhere, like good, bad, mid. And then also sometimes like for movies, like you have to like watch a TV show for this character to understand them more, or like watch that movie to understand the character over here, like kind of just do homework. But for this movie, I can safely say that is not the case. They kind of explain everything that they have to like within like the first half of the movie. So if there's something you don't understand, it would most likely be explained within the movie itself. For example, TVA. I didn't know what the TVA was, but then they explained that itself in the movie, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. Now getting into the plot, which will be spoiler free. This is obviously a follow-up of Deadpool after the second film. This is newly made family, and obviously the end credits. I'm not gonna spoil the end credits here, but obviously some people do come back as well. During his birthday, he makes a wish. I'm assuming meant to be like matter, like he wanted to matter, or like he wanted to be wanted. That makes sense. Like he wanted people to want him specifically, which is I guess one of the kind of inner turmoils that he kind of faces throughout the film. Then the TVA shows up on his birthday right after he makes the birthday wish, and they ask him to help him, which obviously does not go as planned as he wanted to, or like as they explained it to him to be. Leads him into trying to find a Wolverine that will actually try to help him, which obviously he does, and it follows their adventure to defeating the threat or like the main villain and antagonist, and also trying to fill the needs of Deadpool, which is to be accepted and wanted, and I guess filling up to matter. But that is basically gonna be the review. But now let's get into a few things before we start off with this review. This movie is rated R, which is surprising in MCU that is rated R. That is kind of crazy to think. This movie also has a runtime of 2 hours and 7 to 8 minutes. This movie also has a montage and like a kind of respect to all the older previous X-Men films. That has like bloopers of other movies and like just a nice general like homage to the other X-Men films in the credits. And then it also does have a post-credit scene towards the end. It's a Marvel film, let's be honest. Every movie's gonna have a post-credit scene. That was the background and the plot synopsis. Let's get into the goods, the bads, and the neutrals. Getting into the goods, which honestly there is a lot of, because this film was honestly just such a great film in my opinion. The intro, dude, was so freaking good. I loved everything, the choreography, the dancing, just everything about the intro was such an amazing thing to have. All the Deadpool films, in my opinion, has such a great it's called intro, like with the freeway scene in Deadpool 1, or like the freaking pulling, like I can't remember like the reference to like another movie that Deadpool 2 had. And then this one is obviously up there too. This one honestly might be my favorite intro of the 3 films. But moving from the intro, let's get into the soundtrack, dude. I understand like Deadpool has like kind of weird songs in movies. Like not weird, but like good songs that don't fit the theme of the film. But this soundtrack is amazing, honestly, dude. These soundtracks are phenomenal. But moving on from the great soundtrack, suits were amazing. Obviously, like you can see the suits in the trailers, and obviously I personally enjoy them. I think the one thing that is not really a spoiler, because I think it's shown in the trailers, is how the freaking shoulder pads come off. I'm not really a fan of that. I would prefer if they kept the shoulder pads, but other than that, I feel like all the designs of the suits and everything were just perfect and amazing. Like they were just phenomenal. Moving on from the suits, let's get into the fights. The fights and choreography, I think, were kind of a complaint from like people watching this film, but in my opinion, they were so good. The fights were amazing. The choreography was so well done. It didn't feel like just visual clutter when like there was multiple groups of fighting. It was just like you could understand what everyone was doing. You could see what everyone is fighting against. Like honestly, in my opinion, the fights were just so well done in this movie. And moving on from fights, now let's get into cameos, dude. The amount of cameos in this movie are insane. I'm not gonna spoil any cameos, don't worry. I'm not gonna say who shows up and who doesn't, but just the cameos in this film were amazing, funny, and just unexpected. Some cameos I was like, I did not even expect him to be in like a Marvel film ever. Like it was insane the cameos that they had in this film. They were just wild, bonkers, and all the cameos were just amazing. Going from the fighting now into the jokes. So the jokes are honestly, let's be honest, the Deadpool movies have some good jokes, but they have some jokes also spoil like milk. They have some jokes that age like milk that just are terrible. I do feel like it's gonna happen in this movie. Like some jokes, like when you watch like 5 years later, I'll be like, ooh, that kind of didn't age too good. But overall, the jokes are honestly phenomenal. One little nitpick that I had is that I feel like he talks to the camera less. Like I feel like he broke the fourth wall a little bit less than the other 2 films. Moving on from the jokes, let's get into the ending fight, dude. I feel like the ending fight is just amazing. Freaking Deadpool Wolverine, dude. This ending fight is such phenomenal. I will talk about the ending later in this video because I do have some little grabs and picks towards the ending. But overall, the fight towards the end was just phenomenal, in my opinion. They're just so freaking good. Those were the goods. Now let's get into the bads. Now getting off into the bads, honestly there's very few, not that many bads in this film. Starting off with how the story kicks off, I'm not really a fan. I feel like it's the weakest plot point and how the story begins. I feel like the first one is about like how like he got cancer, he wants to live, and then the second one is about like how he wants to try to find his girl again, I guess you can say. And this one just really doesn't have a good way of kicking out the story, to be honest. Like, I feel like it's kind of forced. Moving on from that, I feel like also too the story structure isn't all there. Like, I feel like it's kind of all scattered all over the place. Like, they have an idea for like 30 minutes, and then the next 10 minutes kind of gets rid of that, and then the next 30 have another idea. It's kind of like all over the place. The story is kind of all over the place, but moving on from that, also the villain. I feel like the villain is anticlimactic. I feel like the main antagonist itself is just not really that good. I feel like the other two villains of Francis and I guess Eric Cable, or like the kid, I forgot his name, are better villains than this villain in this film. I cannot lie. Like, I feel like the main villain is just not that strong for the fact that I don't think they're seen that much, and also too they don't do that much in the movie. But the final bad that I have is the pacing. I feel like the pacing sometimes is really slow, where like they slow down a bit, but then they go really quick, and then slow down again and go really quick, and then they kind of waste a little bit of time for a cameo, and it's like they could just shut the cameo, then move on to the next scene, but they kind of linger onto it. Same thing with the jokes. I feel like they kind of linger onto a joke. Like, I feel like they take it a minute too long. But those were the bads. Now let's get into the neutrals. But now getting into neutrals, I only have 2 neutrals for this movie, which is 1, the CGI. I feel like the CGI can get wonky at times. I feel like it's 90% good CGI, and then the other 10 is like VFX didn't have enough time to render in the CGI. It's not a huge complaint because, like, again, like, it's not a lot. Like, it doesn't happen like egregious amount of time. It's like out of the 2 hours, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes is like actual bad CGI. But other than that, it's really not too bad. And the final neutral, I think, is the ending. I'm not really a fan of it. I feel like it's just too basic and really predictable. But it's not a bad ending. That is why it's here on the neutrals. But those were the goods, the bads, and the neutrals. Now let's get into the rating. This movie was great, and it was such a great watch. I enjoyed every second of the film, and it was great overall, but it isn't perfect and has many flaws. For that reason, I'll be giving it a 7 out of 10, and is honestly really good. And I do personally think that this movie is worth the watch. It is honestly really such a good and compelling story to have for Deadpool as a character, and it's honestly just a film in general. It is really good. That is the end of this review. If you have any movie suggestions, comment them down below, and what you enjoyed about this film, what you hated about this film, your thoughts on this film in general, and which one is your favorite between the 3. But if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment for more. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.